This is the news on NTA International. Thanks for joining us. I am Anne Jibulo. The headlines. As Africa's largest market economy and democracy, Nigeria is ready to play a vital role. President Tinubu tells G20 leaders. .8 magnitude earthquake hits Morocco's high Atlas Mountains, claims over 1,000 lives. Vice President Kashim Shettima visits home state Borno, inaugurates projects. President Bola Tinubu has expressed Nigeria's commitment and readiness to play a vital and major role within the G20 and contribute to shaping a more equitable world. President Bola Tinubu addressed the group of leaders in New Delhi, India, as a special invitee. State House correspondent Musbah Danwahab reports.
Nigeria, again, is among nations to be counted as leaders converge on New Delhi. There is a new face on the block, and perhaps a special guest who may soon join another league of leaders who cut the shots in the world. For now, the immediate possibility here is an end to the long wait as the African Union finally finds a permanent seat in the group. Now, a group of 20 plus 1 to reinforce the search for solutions to the long-standing challenges of development, economic resilience, financial stability, food and energy security, among others.
Friends, after the COVID-19 pandemic, the world is now going through a major crisis, and that is a lack of trust. War has further deepened this trust deficit.
The special guest would lend a voice as he suggests stronger collaboration, cooperation and partnerships among diverse regions are the pathways to a peaceful, prosperous and sustainable future for the world. Expressing the willingness of Nigeria to contribute to the solution drive, President Tinubu believes that oneness must be truly demonstrated in the character of a group. And soon after, the G20 New Delhi Leaders Declaration emerges, suggesting new approaches to the global challenges.
The declaration that the leaders have agreed on today focuses on promoting strong, sustainable, balanced and inclusive growth. It seeks to accelerate progress on SDGs and has come up with an action plan accordingly.
Time for some bilateral talks on the sidelines, which involved leaders from Germany, Egypt, among other countries' representatives. Pleasant expressions afterwards, perhaps a signal to positive possibilities of some great deals to come. Then, a stop at an exhibition center as Asiwaju looks on with a gaze that suggests familiarity. From New Delhi, Musbah and Wahab, NTA News.
And joining us to discuss further on admission of the African Union into the G20 is former diplomat of ECOWAS Commission, Haruna Warkani. You're welcome to our studios.
Thank you, and good evening, viewers.
Now, let's start with this. What exactly is the significance of this G20 permanent seat to Africa?
Well, the G20 is an alliance of the greatest 20 economies in the world. That's the industrialized economies of the world. And this brings these countries together to share common ideals and strategies for maintaining development, from financial to climate change, environment, and social development. And this came about in 1999, following the financial crisis in the world. So this group has been knitted together to promote their economies with a population globally of about 4 billion, and enjoying so much shared development amongst themselves. And so far, only South Africa in Africa is a member of this group.
All right. Now, the AU is the second regional body to actually become a member, a permanent member of the G20. Do you think there is something about Africa that made India propose this membership?
Well, so far, minus South Africa, which is a member, Africa has largely remained outside of this group, which is rather unfortunate because the collective economies of Africa today, continental economy that is to say, is still so significant in a way that a large chunk of the population shouldn't have been left out of such a group. But we thank God things are changing. Nigeria has gotten a special invitation this year to attend in India, and as we have seen so far, the President, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, has successfully told the group that they are incomplete without Nigeria, which is a fact anybody cannot run away from. With a population of 200 plus million people and the largest economy on the continent, and very growing, with enormous resources and what have you, it will be truly unfair to say such a country is outside the G20. There is no good reason to keep Nigeria out of it. So we hope next year when this group converge in Brazil for their annual meeting, Nigeria would have been closer, if not already, in the G20.
Yeah, and the superpowers are doing everything, it appears, to get a feel of development in Africa. We have seen China recently making a wave across the continent. What really do you think are the issues?
Well, it is exciting to note that Africa generally is usually classified as the new frontier in economic development because talk of population growth, younger population, and resource availability. If you combine all this, you see that Africa is the next growth area in the world. And so if that is the case, doing anything and sidelining Africa wouldn't be good for anyone. That is why there is like a new love relationship between America, Russia, China, Japan, and the European Union. They have been courting Africa in several ways by initiating Africa, Asia group, Africa, Japan, Africa, European Union, Africa this, Africa, America new relationship, because all these countries have realized that without Africa, there may not be the world actually. The industries that they pride themselves with cannot function without something from Africa. That's a reality that all of them have realized. And therefore, it is redefining our relationship with these countries. And so here, we as Africans should take leverage and take advantage of this by using our position that God has given to us to make a statement and let us belong properly. Yes. Industrialization cannot come overnight, and so we must struggle to be a member of this group and even beyond.
All right. Now, before we let you go, as a country, does Nigeria stand to gain anything from this development beyond just the AU issue? I know we have a large population and all that. So what do we stand to gain beyond what we're getting as being part of the AU?
Well, in an alliance, generally, it is a shared values that we enjoy. And so being a member of this alliance, there are some benefits naturally that comes along with it. When we speak with one single voice on the international scene, we are better heard. If we have other issues, the fora will be in a position to say, okay, we want to actually intervene or assist or ally with your thoughts and processes. So being a member definitely confers on us both economic, political, and strategic interest, including security in some respects.
All right. Thank you very much, Haruna Wakani, for joining us today.
Thank you.
former diplomat of the ECOWAS Commission. It was a pleasure speaking with you.
Thank you for having me.
Now let's move on to other stories. A powerful earthquake hit Morocco's high Atlas mountains last Friday, killing more than 1,000 people and destroying buildings, consequently sending residents of major cities from their homes. Justin Bemui reports.
Moroccans in Casablanca were too afraid to go back indoors and opted instead to remain on the streets after a 6.8 magnitude earthquake hit the North African country. Moroccan officials confirmed that the powerful earthquake which terrified residents occurred in the middle of the night. The U.S. Geological Survey reported that the 6.8 magnitude quake struck a mountainous area 72 kilometers southwest of tourist hotspot Marrakesh at 11:11 p.m. Friday. Strong tremors were also felt in the coastal cities of Rabat, Casablanca, and Essaouira. Moroccan media reported it was the most powerful quake to ever hit the country. Updated Interior Ministry figures on Saturday showed that more than half of those killed by quake reside in Al Haouz and Taroudant provinces. Another 329 people were injured, including 51 in critical condition, the ministry said. Meanwhile, international response to the earthquake is starting to be heard. United Nations spokesperson Stephen Dujarric said the UN is on standby to help the Moroccan government in its efforts to assist the impacted population. Narendra Modi, the Prime Minister of India currently hosting the G20 summit, said his country is ready to offer all possible assistance to Morocco. In the meantime, Mark Rutte, Prime Minister of the Netherlands, said his thoughts are with the many victims of this disaster and with the local emergency services. He conveyed his sincere condolences to Prime Minister Aziz Akanoj. Justin Bemui, NTA News.
Meanwhile, President Bola Tinubu has extended his heartfelt condolences to King Mohammed of Morocco following Saturday's devastating earthquake in his homeland, which claimed many lives. The president commiserates with all families who lost loved ones and all those otherwise affected by this tragedy, while wishing a full and swift recovery to those who were injured. President Tinubu assures the government and people of Morocco that the heartfelt prayers and thoughts of Nigerians are with them during this difficult moment of tragedy. In the face of this adversity, Nigeria will continue to stand in solidarity with Morocco as they recover, rebuild, and come out stronger than ever from this unfortunate event, the president assured. Gabon's interim president, General Brice Oligui Nguema, says the country aims to draw up a new constitution drafted with representatives from all key groups which would respect democracy and human rights, as well as submit a referendum. In his inaugural address, General Oligui vowed to hold a free, transparent and credible election to restore civilian rule, but did not give a time frame. He also said he would soon announce a transitional government that would have representations from across the political spectrum. Gabon's military rulers on Thursday appointed Raymond Ndongsima, a prominent opponent to ousted President Ali Bongo Ondimba, as interim prime minister. European Union High Representative and Vice President Josep Borrell is in Georgia to discuss progress in Georgia's European integration path and exchange views on wider foreign policy and regional matters. During the visit, the High Representative met with the President and Prime Minister of Georgia and also held a meeting with the Georgian Minister of Foreign Affairs. Herman Jabani has the story.
The European Union High Representative's visit marks its first and the 15 years of continuous support and continuous presence of EU monitoring mission, and it's also reflective of the EU's commitment to Georgia's security and peaceful conflict resolution. The parties discussed Georgia's progress towards EU membership and steps taken to receive the candidate status. Special attention was paid to the implementation of the 12 recommendations defined by the European Council for Georgia. The efforts invested commitment by Georgia's authorities towards ensuring the inclusive and transparent implementation of the recommendations was highlighted by the implementation of the resolutions nearing finalization. Prime Minister of Georgia underlined the government's strong will to bluster the process of the country's development and reforms. The conversation also touched on the cooperation between Georgia and the EU across a variety of areas. Global projects with Georgia's engagement were commended, which once again underscores Georgia's strategic importance to the EU.
The European Union commitment to Georgia is also manifested through our financial support. We are the largest provider of bilateral assistance, with almost 340 million euros during the period 2021-2024. And through our economic and investment plan, around 1.3 billion euros in investment is being leveraged.
Attention was paid to the international security environment, challenges faced in the region, and the EU importance of fostering international peace and security. The leaders thanked the EU representative for the work of EU monitoring mission in Georgia. Hamad Jabani, NTA News.
You're watching the news on NTA International. More reports shortly. Please stay with us. Thanks for staying with us. Partners in the climate space are exploring ways to collaborate and finance government's energy transition plan. They have identified that partnering the Nigerian government through the Ministry of Environment will speed up the process. Charles Alpha reports.
The United Nations Agency on Drugs and Crime was the first caller barely a day after the Minister of State for Environment, Isiaq Salako, returned from the African climate change in Nairobi. The aim of the visit was clear, and it was to get the minister's input on the first national strategy developed by Germany and the EU, which will help combat wildlife and forest crimes in Nigeria.
So it was very helpful for us to get your own vision, in particular as concerns creating environmental awareness and consciousness and appreciation among Nigerians, which we fully agree with you, Minister, is absolutely critical to all of our other efforts to protect the environment.
The second group, Climate Change Forum, came seeking ways to collaborate and figure out how to partner and finance government's transition plans in a forthcoming climate event to find solutions.
We need to transition to renewable energy sources. The world is calling us to it. But we need to figure out a way to finance this transition. For the Minister of State for Environment, who welcomed the initiative, says urgent work needs to be done amid the actualization of government's transition plan, as it is not mere paper talk, but the reality which requires capacity development.
So if we are able to transit, definitely that will help. We are very determined to cooperate with everybody who can support, can collaborate to ensure that we achieve that.
In all of these visits, cooperation and collaboration will be vital and strategic in what these groups came in search of. Charles Alpha, NTA News.
And the Center for Climate Change and Development Conference held in Abuja had a far-reaching effect on debt, development and climate challenges in the country. Again, Charles Alpha reports that the Nigerian realities and solutions to the debt situation were laid bare by advocates at the conference.
A great number of climate activists, civil society organizations, both local and international, at the Climate Change and Development Conference were hoping to unpack Nigeria's debt situation in the context of deepening debts, social and climate crisis on the African continent and offer solutions. This was exactly what they have achieved. They were able to come up with key insightful recommendations and implementation strategies. Reports had it that in September 2022, Nigeria's debt reached a historic level of 54 trillion naira, while the GDP ratio remains below 40%, with debt servicing costs reaching an alarming rate. The report also shows that the federal government has spent more than 80% of its revenue on debt servicing. This, the conference said, has changed Nigeria's external debt fundamentally and have made recommendations to rewrite the story. In a communique, the conference recommended that the National Assembly review all legal and institutional framework relevant to debt management. It tasked the Ministry of Finance, Budgets and National Planning to find a way to boost revenue generation and called on Nigeria to reduce its reliance on borrowing, adding that President Bola Tinubu should leverage his position as chair of ECOWAS to influence international financial architecture on climate financing and carbon revenue, engage China as Nigeria's largest bilateral lender on debt restructuring, and finally, strive to generate renewable electricity on and off-grid to limit diesel and gasoline generators for electricity generation by 2030, while promoting agroforestry and gas flaring and biomass cooking from the current 72% to 20%. Charles Alpha, NTA News.
Vice President Kashim Shettima is in Maiduguri, the Borno state capital, for a two-day official engagement. The Vice President started his engagement immediately with the inauguration of projects executed by the Borno state government to mark 100 days of Governor Babagana Umar Zulum's administration in office. He also flagged off the distribution of NEDC palliatives for states in the northeast zone.
The presidential aircraft touched ground at Maiduguri Air Force Base at about 5:40 in the evening, where he was received by Governor Babagana Umar Zulum, members of national and state assemblies, ministers and other federal and state government functionaries, as well as politicians and members of business community. After the traditional Air Force reception and a rousing welcome to the Vice President, he proceeded to inaugurate a number of projects executed by the Borno state government to mark Governor Zulum's 100 days in office that include 20 to 30 classroom ultra-modern primary, junior and senior secondary schools at Shuari 2, Alakaramti and Gamboru communities as part of efforts to educate orphans out of school and other vulnerable children. Many mega schools had been built in the state as part of post-insurgency recovery process because the education sector is the worst hit in over a decade-long security challenges. Also inaugurated was Shuari 2 30-bed capacity primary health care center, one of the three built by the Zulum administration in 100 days, in addition to numerous hospitals and primary health care constructed in the last 4 years to bring healthcare service to the doorsteps of the citizens. The entourage proceeded to the Shehu of Borno's palace for a courtesy call on the royal father, where the vice president commended Governor Babagana Umar Zulum for the real leadership style and for putting Borno first.
On behalf of the president, I would like to commend the governor for his outstanding leadership and his commitment to the welfare of our people. He sleeps with Borno on his mind. He wakes up with Borno on his mind. We are extremely lucky in having him as our leader, as our governor, as our brother.
The Vice President also stressed commitment of the federal government to address challenges confronting Borno State and other parts of the country. Borno State Governor Babagana Umar Zulum said government and people of Borno believe in administration of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu and call on the citizens to give maximum support to the administration.
This administration is 100 days old. And inshallah, under the distinguished leadership, Borno State will benefit a lot.
Let me welcome Your Excellency, Senator Kashim Shettima, GCON, Vice President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. It is my candid belief that by carrying along on the renewed hope for Nigerians by this administration would certainly be realized.
The royal father also highlighted some challenges confronting the state for federal government's intervention. In Maiduguri, Mohammed Goni, NTA News.
Up next is the weather update. That's the news on NTA International. We thank you for joining us. I am Anne Jibuno.